Look at this for a second. Spotlights in the foreground, pool tables in the background. Your character, Max, fighting through the middle. This is a 16-bit game from 1992, and it feels like a real place. Now watch the background here. The railings close to you move fast. That palace in the distance barely moves at all. The space feels deep, like there's a whole nother world behind those railings. And this is a boss fighting in an arena. Even those duplicating onlookers have a certain gruff character, but it's those silhouettes at the back that are nicely rim-lit by the lights at the top of the frame. Details that didn't need to be there. And the team at Ancient clearly placed a huge amount of care into how these worlds feel, even in a game about punching people. I'm a photographer. I've spent 13 years learning how images work, and I wanted to know, why does Streets of Rage 2 still look this good? Let's get into it. 1992. Think about what came out that year. Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, Super Mario Kart, and Sonic 2. This wasn't just a good year for games. This was everyone trying to prove what 16-bit could actually do. Ancient had made Streets of Rage 1 just 2 years earlier. It was good, solid street brawling, decent visuals, but it was clear there was room to push it further. They were a very small studio at the time with just a tiny core team. Streets of Rage 2 was reportedly completed in around half a year. Now just look at the difference. Streets of Rage 1, the sprites are smaller, the animations are stiffer, the backgrounds are simpler. It works, but it feels constrained. Streets of Rage 2, larger sprites, smoother animation, richer colours, more detailed environments, layered backgrounds, stronger depth, and better scene variety within each stage. And here's where it gets interesting. Ancient was founded by Ayano Koshiro and her brother Yuzo Koshiro, a small family-run studio. In interviews translated by Shmuplations, an archive dedicated to preserving Japanese game developer commentary, Ayano described her role. She acted as chief designer, shaping everything from character visuals to move design. Yuzo, still in his early 20s at the time, didn't just compose the music. He wrote custom sound drivers, pushing the Mega Drive sound hardware further than Sega had originally intended. Take a listen to this. That's not just craft, that's dedication. When how a game feels matters just as much as what it does. So let's see what that dedication created. What stands out is how these stages feel lived in, not just decorative backdrops. You're not just fighting in front of scenery, you're fighting inside environments that feel three-dimensional and lived in. The clearest example is this bar scene from stage 1. Watch how it establishes depth through layering. Those spotlights in the foreground, they add texture and contrast as you move through the level, creating that sense of being under stage lighting. And in the background, pool tables, the bar itself, steps up to another area and the world outside, and lighting rigs. The detail and the lighting separates those areas, separates those layers instead of flattening them. It doesn't feel like a picture of a bar. It actually feels like being inside one. And this, Mr. X's domain, the architectural scale, the symmetry, the imposing window frame structure. The red floor does the same job. It quietly signals danger, a space where violence is expected, not accidental. The environment itself communicates power and threat before you even get to fight the final boss. But what's really striking is the level of craft in the details. Look at this wrestling arena crowd, a bunch of duplicating onlookers, but they all have a certain gruff character. They all look like that they should be at this particular arena. Plus, at the top, you have the rim lighting and the silhouettes, which is just another addition by the designers that gives this game more layers. In Streets of Rage 2, the crates and bins that you smash for pickups didn't need to look this good, but they have texture and they belong in their respective environments. Lighting effects, spotlights, weather, sunset glows, they all create mood without changing how the game actually plays. Ancient didn't just build functional spaces. The result is worlds that you want to spend time in, even when that time is spent punching people. And these stages aren't all the same. The variety of spaces and moods gives the game its emotional range. If you're enjoying this, please hit like and subscribe. More retro game analysis coming to you soon. Thank you very much. Watch how the game takes you through completely different emotional temperatures. Stage 1, warm urban evening, orange streetlights, pockets of interior glow, and rain-darkened streets. It feels approachable, almost nostalgic. Stage 6, golden hour beach. Amber sunset is on everything. A walk through the lush jungle, a tense double boss encounter framed with strong one-point perspective, pulling your eye towards that looming structure in the distance. Is that where our final battle will take place? The whole stage feels like it's ending, and that's because it is. You're near the finale. Stage 8, cold industrial factory. Greys, steel blues, harsh reds, mechanical and unforgiving. The final lair, a palatial building with red carpets, signifying danger, and a sunset outside. It will all soon be over. And finally, grand interior, dressed in red, luxury, weaponized into warning. It feels final. Same gameplay, same mechanics, completely different feeling. Here's something I want to know. What stage do you remember most when you played Streets of Rage 2? The city at night bridge? The sunset beach? Let me know down below. On the Mega Drive, the developers were working with a very limited colour palette by modern standards. Hundreds of colours in total, not millions. So every stage required a carefully chosen palette. The bar feels intimate and enclosed. The park feels calm with another world just out of reach. The Stage 3 fairground battle, with its most distinctive boss, Vihilitz, if that's how you pronounce his name, you can see and feel the influence that Ayano Koshiro took from H.R. Giger's Alien designs. This comes from an era where mood and atmosphere started to matter just as much as mechanics. Streets of Rage 2 takes you on an emotional journey simply through how its spaces look and feel. The game never lets you settle into one visual language. That variety creates pacing and progression, not just through difficulty, but through how each location makes you feel. And the characters fighting through these worlds have just as much personality. Look at the playable cast. Axel Stone, blonde, white tank top, the street tough everyman, looking truly righteous in his white t-shirt. Blaze Fielding, red leather, acrobatic moves, distinctive and lethal. Max Thunder, stocky and muscular, with punches and jumps that feel heavy, a true powerhouse. Finally, Skate, the skateboard-loving kid with a unique breakdancing fighting style who clearly reflects early 90s youth culture. All 4 characters were designed by Ayano Koshiro, with their movement and combat shaped through close collaboration with her brother Yuzo, especially when defining the fighting styles of Max and Sammy. And the enemy design shows the same level of care. There are so many enemy bosses, yet they are all so memorable. Abadidi and Z Kusuno, the Zorro and Ultimate Warrior lookalikes, with glistening muscles, detailed boots, and a real cartoon villain menace about them. And then there's Mr. X, the final boss. Tommy gun, sharp but slightly scruffy suit. He's bad and he's the big boss. The red floor, the imposing window, the symmetry of the scene. The whole confrontation feels deliberately staged for a final encounter. Every character, hero or villain, has visual identity. They're not just gameplay functions with different stats. They're characters who you recognise, remember, and respond to. This extends to the same care that you see in the environments, to everything on screen. Even enemies that you fight for a few seconds get considered design. That refusal to cut corners, even on details most players wouldn't consciously analyse, is part of what makes this game feel timeless. Now watch and listen to what happens when you land a hit. Pose holds, the sound confirms it. The enemy reacts, your brain registers instantly that that worked. Look at this moment closely. Axel winds up for the punch. Impact, there's a brief freeze on contact. The sound effect hits exactly as the land blows. The enemy sprite reacts, stumbles back. There's even a little fire spark coming from your hands and feet as you land a blow. Everything agrees with everything else. This is why the combat feels satisfying. You trust what you're seeing because nothing's lying to you. When you connect, every element on screen confirms it's happened. And this is where Yuzo Koshiro's sound work becomes essential. The music drives you forward, creates momentum, sets the tone for each stage, but it never drowns out the action. The punch sounds, the impact effects, just listen to how it all works together. The bassline pushes, the percussion drives the rhythm, but when you land a hit, you hear it clearly. The sound design and the music aren't competing. They're working as one system. Koshiro didn't just compose a soundtrack. He wrote custom sound drivers to push the Mega Drive sound hardware beyond what it was designed for. House and techno influences, FM synthesis, driven hard. The result feels aggressive, propulsive, and unmistakably modern for 1992. Sound and vision working together, not layered separately. Every punch, every impact feels weighted and real. That is what craft means. The combat feels good because animation, sound, music, and visual feedback all support the same feeling. But what really gets me is the level of detail that serves no gameplay purpose whatsoever. Look at this ship stage. That wall in the background, it's not just a flat surface. You've got rust patterns, holes worn through the metal, fire hydrants mounted on the bulkhead, and there's portholes with actual detail. None of this affects how you play, but it gives the ship character and makes it feel lived in. The background artist, Nakai Satoshi, created the atmosphere of pipes and rust with an incredibly limited colour palette. Chief designer Ayano later said she was amazed at what he managed to achieve within those constraints. This factory, just watch that background. That conveyor belt is actually moving constantly. You don't interact with it. It's just there running, because that's what conveyor belts do in factories. Someone took their time to animate that, even though most players will never consciously notice it. And look at these breakable objects. Crates, bins, barrels. They reveal food and money, so they're actually functional. But just look at how they're designed. They're not just generic breakable objects. They actually have texture and detail, and they belong in the environments that they are placed in. All of the different breakable objects have their own characteristics. This is what passion looks like. A team that could have stopped at functional and instead pushed it further. Every stage has these moments, environmental details, atmospheric touches that exist purely to make the world feel considered. You don't need to consciously notice these details for them to matter. The cumulative effect of dozens of these small details is what makes Streets of Rage 2 feel special. It's the difference between a game that works and a game that resonates, between something that's just competent and something that people remember more than 30 years later. So here's why Streets of Rage 2 matters. After the game, the standard changed. Look back at what you've just seen, the clarity of colour, the depth created through layered movement, the weight of each impact, the way every stage feels visually distinct. Once a beat-em-up could feel this polished, it became harder to accept anything less. Flat backgrounds started to feel cheap. Stiff animation felt unfinished. Combat without clear visual feedback felt unsatisfying. You can see its priorities echoed in what came after. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World wears its admiration openly, echoing the bold colour, character clarity, and rhythmic combat. Fight and Rage studies how colour and contrast guide your eye through chaos. And Streets of Rage 4 had no choice but to engage directly with its legacy, not just mechanically, but visually and emotionally. But it's bigger than individual titles. As a photographer, that's what I recognise here. Not just good design, but intentional design. Design that respects the viewer, design that trusts you'll feel the difference, even if you don't consciously analyse why light, colour, timing, composition, all working together to create clarity and emotion. That's why this game still holds up. A small team working at their peak. Hardware they learned inside and out. And a brief window to show what it really could do. They didn't just make a great beat-em-up, they set a bar. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back again soon. Until we meet again, go forth and play.